Hello and welcome to iBuzz. I'm your host Nosheen Bukhari, bringing you the best entertainment news from showbiz world. In today's episode, we will bring you some hots and nots, followed by a review of the movie Cake, which raised the bar for Pakistani cinemas. First things first, let me quickly take you to the top stories of the day. Chris Harrison, the Bachelor host, leaves for good over racism. Tom Cruise has only 21 days left to finish filming Mission Impossible 7 after Blockbuster was troubled with shooting delays. Coldplay perform an alien planet in music video for Higher Power. Thor 4, Tom Hiddleston confirms Loki and Thor are not reuniting. And Spice Girls will tour again after lockdown. And now moving to the top story of the day. Tom Cruise is reportedly in a rush to finish filming Mission Impossible 7 in only 3 weeks. Thanks to several delays to shooting schedule brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic, there is set to be only 21 days left to get the film completed. To have further discussion on that, we have TV presenter Jessica Hay with us. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So Jessica, there is now a huge pressure to finish the filming on time. Do you think Tom Cruise will compromise on the quality only to meet the deadline?
I think it's one of those things where, you know, when films and you have a set deadline and they've got so much to complete in this time, and then coupled with, you know, the pandemic, I can imagine it's not been easy. I read that most of the film has actually been, you know, filmed, and they've just got this major scene left to do. So you're hoping, even though it's a big scene, you're hoping within 21 days that they will be able to get it to the standard that you want. I mean, I think we know the kind of films, the past Mission Impossible films have always been to a good standard. So you would hope that they would stay that way, even with the delays that we're seeing because of COVID.
Right, and Jessica, reports say that Tom and the team are tearing their hair out. Some of the crew members are they're agency contractors and are already booked to move onto new projects. Do you think it's time the filmmakers have to take a leap of faith?
I think so. I mean, I can imagine in that industry, they will have back-to-back bookings, and like Tom, I mean, he's got Top Gun 2 that he's also got to then focus on after this, as well as the other directors that are involved in it. I think, you know, I can imagine within 21 days, I know they are saying that they're ripping their hair out, trying to get it done in time, but I do kind of have faith, and I think, you know, I'm sure in the 21 days they should be able to get it done.
Right, and without them, Tom will be left scratching around for replacements. And if that wasn't enough, he has his own scheduling conflicts going on. So do you think this has literally become a Mission Impossible for Tom Cruise now?
I would hope not, because, you know, in the past, we've seen, you know, he's always completed his mission. So, you know, I think it's one of those where you just got to kind of stay positive and just hope that this final big scene that they're wanting to do will be able to be done in those 21 days. I mean, they haven't got any other choice, have they? They've got 21 days to do it. So, you know, we'll just have to see if that mission can be completed.
Right. So, Jessica, delays are nothing new to fans and critics. Just recently, we read the news of Robert Pattinson's star Batman's delay. A lot of examples are out there, but those were due to in-house matters. Whereas Mission Impossible had a genuine reason, which is, of course, none other than the pandemic situation and COVID cases being reported on set of MI7. Do you think this pressure of wrapping up is not justified?
I think, especially with the pandemic, it's been such an unprecedented time, hasn't it? It's impacted many things throughout over the year that it's been going on for. I think it was inevitable that this, when, you know, cast and crew were working so closely together, I think it's hard to kind of feel like there's never going to be any cases or there isn't going to be any setbacks. So I think with them delaying it from, I think it was July to May next year, so, you know, for the release date. So I just think it's one of those things where the pandemic, you're not going to be able to film for as long as they have the kind of scenes, the stunts that they're doing without, you know, kind of getting some COVID cases. I mean,
this was
delayed in that way.
This was Tom's major concern, actually. I mean, in other words, we can say that this is a medical concern. So putting pressure on the team to wrap up in only 21 days, I mean, what do you expect?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those things where within those 21 days, we could see, you know, another case even develop, and then they've got to go on that way. So it might even be that, you know, they should delay it even more just to make sure people are safe. And I think with it being delayed anyway, it's not like it's got this mad rush for people waiting again for it for this year. It's been delayed until next year. So you would hope maybe that if more cases are going to develop, that they could delay it even more.
Right, and it comes, I'd like to know your take that it comes after Tom was reportedly forced to self-isolate for 2 weeks after 14 people on the UK set of Mission Impossible 7 tested positive for COVID. So if the team is taking safety measures during the filming, pushing them towards wrapping up, the project might bring in more hurdles. I'd like to know your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those where I gather the reason they're trying to rush it is, like we mentioned before, that people have got other jobs that they're expected to be on. I mean, money comes into it. This is people's time and money that, you know, they need to try and work around. So I think with the coronavirus pandemic, like you said, it is a health reason rather than other delays that have happened in the past. This is actually a health crisis that has led to these delays being taken, with people having to self-isolate, including Tom himself. So I just think there's only so much that the crew can do in terms of distancing themselves from each other to try and reduce this. But it's inevitable that that is going to happen during a pandemic.
And do you think that the staff's negligence is equal to be blamed for the delay? Because apparently it just seems that it's only Tom Cruise's fault. However, it was the staff. We have heard, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've heard the clip where Tom Cruise is, you know, lecturing his staff. So apparently everything is just, you know, it seems to be Tom Cruise's fault. But what do you think, that it's the staff's negligence which is equally to be blamed?
Yeah, I think it's easy to just blame the big name, the big star, isn't it? Because that's kind of what everyone associates the film with, too. They associate the film to Tom Cruise. So I think there's so many different things that are going to be going on that have led to these delays. Obviously, the pandemic is the main reason. And then you could say, like you've said, the negligence of the staff, perhaps, maybe not following the rules as well as they should have been, or maybe some not taking it as seriously. You don't know, personally, you don't know how they have been acting. But I do also think, even though some people can try really hard, you know, to stay away from COVID-19, cases do develop even when you get people following the rules. So I think it's just a really hard situation.
And of course, when the movie was being filmed, it was the peak of second wave in UK. So what else to expect, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's not like now where cases are kind of, you know, falling off or right at the beginning. It was in a very, very high amount of cases were being recorded at that time. So I guess it's one of those where you have to be as strict as possible. And like I said before, when they're working so closely together, you would expect them to take it, you know, even more seriously during a time where cases were rife.
Right. And of course, the movie is going through a lot of challenges already, yet the fan base is still excited for the franchise to launch the next film. So what are your expectations from the movie so far?
I think, like I said before, I've always enjoyed the Mission Impossibles. I think, you know, the theme tune as well, once you start hearing that, you get all excited. And they always have, you know, lots of action-filled stunts, and with this new one with the cliff, I just think I am excited to see it. And I do think even with the delays, you know, I think sometimes when there are delays, it makes you more anticipated to go and see it. So, you know, I think you can only expect during a pandemic that there are going to be delays. So, yeah, no, I'm excited to see it.
Right. Jessica, we've also seen the fashion of criticizing a certain celebrity who is already under the wrath of social media, of fans, of critics. And then we see the celebrities, being involved in the movement, or people who are in the film industry who are not, working on screen. They're behind the cameras. They join the squad to bringing a certain personality down. Tom Cruise is not, of course, going through some good days these days. So do you think that this can be one of the reasons that Tom Cruise is being unnecessarily criticized for almost everything that he's doing?
I think it's hard when you're in the public eye so much, or when you are such a big name. Not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone likes everybody. So I do think if someone's already got an instant dislike, or there's one thing about them that's annoyed them, there's going to be all these different avenues that they're going to agree with and help try and bring someone down. But I do think it's not right that when you're in the public eye that you get all this kind of attack sometimes. I just think if you've not got anything nice to say, don't say it, but then you're not going to get that message across to everyone, are you? So yeah, I do think when you're in a position like he is, you are going to get hate and attacked for certain things that sometimes you have no control over.
Right, and technically the wrap-up does not seem to be completed in 21 days. So do you think, or do you expect their extension can be given to the filmmakers in order to wrap up the movie? Which is, of course, the need of the time, because everybody knew the reasons were right. So what is your take on that?
I think it would be the right thing to do, you would hope, but then again, like we spoke about before, when you've got directors that are needed on other things, then Tom's going to be needed for Top Gun 2. It's just when you need to try and find out the logistics, and then it might even be that it's delayed even more. But it's one of those where you've got to try and take into account the health side and getting a film sorted. So it's just, like I said before, I'm not envious of being in the position of having to, make that final decision about what they're going to be able to do.
Right. Jessica, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much for having me.
That was Jessica Hay with her views on the delay of Mission Impossible 7. And now moving to other story details of the day. The longtime host of hit U.S. show The Bachelor is stepping down permanently after widespread criticism of his comments on race. Chris Harrison, who also fronted the show's spin-offs, will not return to the ABC programs. Controversy erupted in February after he excused past behavior of a cast member who had been accused of racism, saying he was not the woke police. In February, Harrison stepped aside and apologized for speaking in a manner that perpetuates racism during an interview with former Bachelorette Rachel Lindsay. Coldplay performs on Alien Planet in music video for Higher Power. Speaking of the meaning behind the striking clip, Myers, whose credits include Taylor Swift and Billie Eilish, explained, "The video is a metaphor for how right now we all feel alienated, far removed from our world, almost like we're on an alien planet. And ultimately, we find out love in the streets, and that euphoria shoots off into the stratosphere of our own energy and higher power." The intergalactic promo arrives after the band premiered the track in actual space. Tom Hiddleston confirms that Loki is not in Thor: Love and Thunder, explaining why it's best to have the Asgardian princes separated at this point. Marvel Studio will drop its third Disney Plus series in Loki since they debuted in 2011 via Net Brunau's Thor. Hiddleston and Chris Hemsworth have appeared together in the MCU a total of 6 times. It makes sense that Marvel Studio is developing Thor and Loki's respective arcs separately for a couple of reasons. For starters, this would allow Loki to carve his own story in the MCU outside of his brother's shadow, something that he had been meaning to do but never accomplished in the prime MCU timeline. The Spice Girls will tour again once COVID-19 restrictions are lifted. The wannabe hitmakers, comprised of Emma Bunton, Mel B, Mel C, Gary Horner, and Victoria Beckham, previously embarked on a reunion tour in 2019 as a 4-piece without Victoria, and had originally started to plan a second tour before the COVID-19 pandemic thwarted their ideas. And now Emma has said that she is dying to get back on stage with her bandmates, and has said she is sure the group will tour again once it's safe to do so. That sure is going to be a treat for the Spice Girls fans. And that is it from the newsroom. We will be right back after a quick short break. Stay tuned to catch the Cake review. Welcome back. In this segment, we will be reviewing the 2018 Pakistani movie Cake. Cake is a story about love, loss, and passage of time. The story is something we all can relate to in some way. The movie was released in 2018, bagging a huge success for Pakistani cinemas, so much so that it was welcomed in international film festivals. To review the movie, we have entertainment journalist Mohar Basu joining us from India. Mohar, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. How have you been, Nosheen?
Pretty much good, thank you. So, Mohar, not the usual love and romance genre, this drama leaves the viewers with a lot of thoughts about the struggle of middle class in keeping their ties together. Your views on that?
Absolutely, I agree with you, Nosheen. The thing is, I think I watched the film in 2019, Cake, and I just was so drawn to the whole premise of the film itself. It's so heart-wrenching in parts. It's so funny in parts. I love the romance between the old couple.
Exactly.
I thought it's so tenderly done. And the bonds of siblings, how it evolves and changes, and yet the more they change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I think Asim Abbasi has done a fine job in that film. And I guess it was his first work, and he really nailed it.
Yeah, and the story is not just any story, but it's a whole lot of literature that is depicted in the form of a movie.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. And I think because it's a Pakistani film and I'm an Indian, after a long time I realized that there's not much of a difference. Human bonds across the world stay the same, no matter which borders you draw in between them. Human bonds, human frailty. It's so universal as a film. Like, I could totally see my own siblings and sister in Sana and Amina's characters.
Yeah,
it's just nicely done.
Yeah, and talking about the performances, each actor did justice to their character. Amina Sheikh, Sanam Saeed, Adnan Malik, they all have been terrific in their roles.
Yeah. I don't know, Nosheen, who was your favorite character? I think mine was Romeo. I really thought Romeo was...
Yes, that's what I was talking about, that there was this one character that played the role of a mediator between the entire family that does not seem to be well connected. But Adnan Malik's character, while being an outsider, is seen to be making extra efforts for the family's reunion. And that was wonderful.
Absolutely. And what is beautiful about this film? It also shows us the difference of class divide and how there are so many notions and presumptions that the whole concept and idea of class brings about.
Yeah, exactly.
I think those nuances really add different layers to the film. It's not just a family drama about a dysfunctional family who are finding ways to connect again. It's not just something as basic as that. There's more to it. There's a whole class hierarchy that Asim addresses very beautifully. There is, the whole romantic track between Romeo and Amina's character. It's very nicely done. It's so subtle, so layered. It's very nicely done.
Yes, and talking about Amina Sheikh's character, that how being an older sister, she feels responsible and tired at the same time, but then she doesn't seem like giving in. She just asks for extra help from her siblings, from her family, to feel more empowered in order to, perform her duties.
Yeah. I think it's commendable how the female characters have been written, and it's even more surprising that a man has written them because, after watching Cake, I obviously happened to watch Asim's next work, which was Churails. And that's when I realized that, male writers, directors, creators can be allies for us. That's what this particular film also shows, that, the women characters are very empowered. They're pretty much running the show here. They are driving the story ahead. And the male characters are very beautifully there to support them. This is what, in many ways, feminist writing is about. It's about equality of genders, and that is what Cake very nicely portrays.
Yes. And there's one more thing that makes the movie stand out, is that there are not too many dialogues that keep on explaining the situations. It's just that each scenario is connected to another one, and that's how you find out that what is happening in the story. And then in the end, one finds out that, okay, what the story was about.
Yeah. And the final reveal, I don't think I saw it coming. And there's guilt, there's shame, and there's heartbreak, and there's so much sorrow, melancholy. But it still leaves you with a sense of hope. With so much hope that, families will in the end come together, and there's always scope for patching up.
Exactly. I mean, they have a little cultural touch. They've given that cultural touch with the music to that Sindhi background that the family has.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important that modern filmmaking does that. To modernize while keeping your roots intact in the writing is what culturally pushing the envelope should be about. And that's what has been achieved in this film.
Right. Something very strange was shown in the movie, that the parents, they have a very good relationship with each other. Normally what we see is that children having such behavior, which is shown in the movie Cake, it comes from broken families, but parents were seem to be very intact. However, the children are struggling. And that's a very unique point that the movie raised.
Yeah, broken people don't necessarily need to come from broken homes.
Exactly.
That's also where the stigma of broken homes comes from. And I'm glad Asim's writing and direction kind of debunks that. It doesn't necessarily need to be true. Someone can grow up in an absolutely normal family and still have emotional issues of abandonment, of a lot of other things. We never know what going to school or growing up as a teenager in that part of the world could have done to them, or in that particular school could have done to them. They could have, projected issues that their classmates and peers were facing. So it could be a lot of reasons. And because you bring up the romance of the older couple, Nausheen, I've not watched the film the last 1 year. But if you ask me the one scene that stands out, I think the mother's character tells Sana's character that तुमने अपने husband की चूटी नहीं काटी, तुमसे प्यार भी करती हो. I will never forget that line because it's just so sweet. Because we're showing physical intimacy in a senior couple, which is so frowned upon.
Right. And
I don't think South Asian writers do much of that.
Right. Mohar, of all the characters, like you mentioned Romeo's character already, but there were, each character has done justice to their role. What other characters have you been fond of while watching the movie?
The mother's character actually reminds me of my own mother. My mom is absolutely zany, and I completely see why that lady is the way she is. And it was just so funny, the way she listens to music. My mom, her day can't start without music. She'll wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and there's music playing at a very loud volume. And she'll be like, Ma, what are you doing?
Like we said, that these are the characters that relate to us in their own way in our daily lives. Yeah. So, Mohar,
there's a lived-in quality to the film, There's a very lived-in quality to the film. These people. We've met them, we've seen them, we've grown up around them.
Right. So, Mohar, 3 reasons why would you recommend the movie? And also, there's a good and bad news for the viewers that the movie is on Netflix till 21st of June. So, why would you recommend our viewers to watch the movie?
First of all, let's just say, hey, Netflix, don't take off the movie. We're going to watch this after that. Let's start with that. I would recommend this movie because it's very hard to make people laugh, cry, and choke them, move them in the same 2 hours. I don't think a lot of filmmakers or writers or actors are able to do that. This particular film, this particular bunch of people are able to do all of that so flawlessly in a matter of 2 hours. I totally adore every performance in the film. If you ask me what was my favorite performance, I won't be able to tell you. Right. And I think that's great. That's just a great ensemble of actors. You ask me who did better than the other. We don't know. They're all equally pivotal to the role. They're all equally great and so fantastic. And the third reason, I think I discovered a new gamut of music after watching the film. I think the music in the film is phenomenal. And some of the songs I went and Googled, and then I found out a different, Sindhi music basically. Very rooted, rustic Sindhi music. And that's something that sounds very pleasing. enjoyable to the ears, for sure.
Right, right. Mohar,
Those are my reviews.
that was a brilliant review. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Nausheen. I enjoyed the film a lot, and I recommend your viewers to definitely catch it.
That was Mohar Basu with her very brilliant and detailed review on the movie Cake. And this is time for me to sign off. We will be back with some more entertainment news. Until then, don't forget to share your feedback on the social media links mentioned down below. We'll see you next time. Take care and goodbye.